Ready?
Oh, welcome to Rhythm and Pixels. I usually say hello. I just said welcome this time. Hello. Welcome to... It's been a weird day. Hello and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, a video game music podcast. This is the start of World 26. This is episode 26-1 of
Flying
our
high.
show. Flying high.
Flying high.
Man, World 30 is going to be all underwater stages, let me tell you.
Honestly, we might need it for the physical therapy.
All of this past world has just been like the underground demon fire stage of 2020. Anyway, we're your hosts. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
And we listen to video game music. We find the best and we listen to the best video game music every week from all consoles and all generations. We pick a topic. Either from one of us will find something to look into or to find stuff to listen to, or even suggest it to us through our email from our listeners. But we find a topic, we pick some tracks, we listen to it, we joke about, we have a good time. And that's what's up. Pernell.
Wait, sometimes we even drink Dr. Pepper while we do so.
Are you drinking Dr. Pepper, right? I haven't had a Where's mine?
Well, I don't know. I can bring you one later if you like. But
yeah, let's drop one on my doorstep.
You better get it quick before the ice hits it and it bursts on the stoop.
It's so cold right now. I can't stand it. It's so cold.
But this is one of those, like, I had a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper and cream soda that's been sitting here for like a month now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would have it for like days. Like, I really need this Dr. Pepper. I just need it. Today was one of those days, so I'm cracking this bad boy open.
Nice.
Dr. Pepper and cream soda. It's delicious.
Cream soda.
210 calories, which sucks, but
yeah. I haven't had a cream soda in so long. They're so good.
They really are.
So much sugar.
Don't remind me. I'm consuming it all right now.
This holiday, even though like we haven't done like anything, and I will say we did have you over for a little dinner, but like we're eating leftovers, and you brought over Chinese food.
Yeah, well, it's the thing, like,
because we didn't even see our family, so I was like, we gotta have like our local family.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, like, when I think of Christmas, like, I don't typically do this, but when in a few times where I've been in Chicago for it, or just I know that they do it in Chicago, it's like a big tradition for a lot of people where they get Chinese food in Chinatown for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And it's like Chinese Christmas.
That's awesome.
So it's like, like, honestly, I was like, you know what? My family's not doing anything. Like, my mom made some small stuff, but I didn't want to go over there for this thing. I might go see her tomorrow for a bit with my mask or whatever. But she made like a ham. But other than that, I was like, I don't have any like real dinner this year like normal years. So I was like, I'm just going to partake in the Chinese New Year or Chinese Christmas bit. So I called, my favorite Chinese, and they're like, yeah, we're open until 10 o'clock. I'm like, oh, well.
No. Not just your favorite. Like the best on the East Coast, man.
Well, so don't oversell it now, because people contesting it. Like, our best is the real best.
That's the best. The best of the super deep fried, Americanized Chinthis food.
There it is.
Right
That's the disclosure you needed.
Yeah.
The best of the high fried American Chinese.
Yeah, this is not. I mean, like this is not a fancy. This is not authentic.
This ain't authentic.
Oh, but it's so good. After you finish that with a couple beers, you will go to sleep forever.
It is the only American Chinese restaurant I've ever been to that doesn't deliver, and they don't have to.
Yeah, that's right. They don't deliver. I remember at the beginning of lockdown, I was like, we got to find places that deliver or that are still doing good takeout. And I thought of the place, Happy Fortune, right there on Marsh Road in Wilmington, Delaware. Just giving them a little plug. If anyone's driving through Delaware, you got to get Happy Fortune.
They're good.
And they weren't delivering. I was so disappointed. I remember our friend Nate, from way back in the day, when he lived in New Jersey. I think he's in Maryland now. I don't know. When he lived like way upstate in New Jersey, he would drive down to visit us, and like that was what we did. We got Happy Fortune.
Really?
Yeah. He wanted to go to the comic book shop, and he wanted to get Happy Fortune.
So he knows the deal. He knows the score.
Our comic book shop, which is just called The Comic Book Shop.
It's a good comic book shop, though. They got some quality memorabilia in there.
Yeah, and it was bought by a young couple who we went to, I think, high school with, or they were like a year behind us. And they've really cleaned it up and made it really current and inclusive, and So it's really awesome.
They took it from a comic book dive to a comic book show.
Yeah, kind of a weird comic book dive where they sold sold overpriced toys and pornography, and now it's like
Russian roulette in the basement.
Yes,
Diddy Mao!
weird Moe's Tavern backroom antics, and now it's like a super like awesome like clean shop with like editors picks or shop owner picks, and it's mostly women who work in the store, and so like everyone feels really comfortable coming in. A lot of families go in there. It's really cool. I'm really proud that we have that in our town, and that they've been doing well during the pandemic. They do a lot of deliveries. They do a lot of outdoor pickups of books and stuff.
I am very glad to hear that, because I've always felt kind of bad. Like, I like the idea of comic book culture, but I never got into collecting comics because they stack up so fast.
Oh,
I mean, you've seen my house, between the board games and the video games, do I really need comic books to take up that extra space?
I know. I have like a shelf of like the books I want to keep, you know? And then I have a shelf downstairs of some of the books that I liked, but maybe I liked when I was younger, like in my 20s, that I'm not into now. And I'll say it right now, Preacher is up there. I have the entire collection of Preacher. I'm not into it now. I feel like I'm past some of the violence and some of like that, I don't know, just that weird macho stuff going on. Even though I call it macho. I think it's a little over masculine.
I can't speak for Preacher, but in terms like the general concept, it just depends on the product, like how it's framed, and also my state of mind and mood. Like, there was a movie that's coming out soon that stars the guy who played Bob Odenkirk. And the premise there is that he's a guy who's like a mild-mannered dad in a family, and he's kind of like really mild-mannered. And something happens where like he gets home invaded one night, and the guy comes in his house with a gun and everything, and he kind of doesn't fight back against the intruders. Like, he's like, just take what you need and leave. And his wife gets like really mad at him. Like, you could have done something. You like lay about of a man. Like, basically treat him like crap for it.
Yeah. And
it turns out like the reason why he didn't do anything is because he's trying to keep all that stuff down key, because one of his older jobs was like a hitman or a cleaner.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So like, unfortunately though, like now the bug's starting to tip out, and he's like starting to go back into her. He's like aggressive and he's angry. So like, he finds the guy that broke into his house, and then like it turns out there's like this bigger plot going on where someone from his old life is trying to get back at him. And now he's all of a sudden like telling his kids to hide in the basement because he got shot, and he's like beating the guys up in his house.
That sounds similar to a movie that came out ages ago called The History of Violence with Viggo Mortensen. Have you seen that?
But sounds like I might if it's similar to this.
Yeah, I think he lives in Philadelphia or something. He has a family, and he's got like a normal job, but then like his past life as like a hitman or working in the mob like comes back, and it is like pretty crazy violent, but like it's really like the unfolding, the telling of his past to his family of who he was, and so it's not who he is now. He was incredible in that movie. I swear the last like 2 minutes of that movie were gut-wrenching. It was so good. He was so good.
Now, see, like the two movies we were just describing, one that's not out yet and one that you've already seen, they are what some would consider to be machismo violence too. But it's all on the framing. It's all on how they play it out, and it's also how the actors portray it and what mood you're in when you're watching it.
Well, another one that's really good about, not really good about specifically analyzing like toxic masculinity, but certainly a part of it, is a new one on Amazon called Uncle Frank that takes place in the 70s about a girl's gay uncle who eventually comes out to their family in the South.
I'm glad to hear you said, because like it threw me off, because there's a song by a band that I like called Uncle Frank 2. And it's a queercore band, and it's a similar idea. Like, Uncle Frank was the person who helped her feel comfortable about being gay. So now I gotta figure who the name of the song was.
Maybe that's a thing. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's like a saying. You know, everyone's got that Uncle Frank. You know, and I'm like, but the movie, it's like you love Uncle Frank, and he's just incredible, and he's still flawed, but like his boyfriend is awesome. And the way it ends, like I was in tears. I was crying so hard at the end of this movie, Pernell. It was so good.
Tears?
Yes, no, it was good tears. It had a good ending. So you go into a movie like this that takes place in the past, and you're like, something horrible is going to happen, but it ends really well. So if you're wondering if you're going to watch this movie tonight and enjoy it after the fact, yeah, go watch it. It's got a great ending, and it's very moving. Okay, before we get anything started, we've been talking about movies for 10 minutes.
Welcome to Rhythm and Pickles, the movie podcast.
Movie show. We got a few things we want to shout out. First, we are hosted and sponsored by Blueberry Podcast Hosting. That's BLUBRRY. Blueberry. That's like blueberry without the E's. And if you go to rhythmandpixels.com/podcast and click the link there, use offer code PIXELS, you get your first month of hosting free. So if you're just starting out, or if you want to take your podcast to the next level, you get like professional statistics, lightning fast downloads, like super fast, like stupid fast downloads and uploads, around the clock support. They'll do migrations from other hosts to this one. They'll fix your feed. They'll do everything. And they'll even manage getting your feeds to like Amazon and Spotify, all that stuff that is hard to figure out when you're just getting started. Blueberry takes care of all of that. BLUBRRY. Go to rhythmandpixels.com/podcast. Get your first month free. And then also, we have our shirts available that are still, I think they're 15% off if you use offer code PIXELS, PIXELS. If you go to rhythmandpixels.com/merch, get yourself the classic tee, get yours with our logo on it. I think our Pixel pictures are on there too, right? On the front.
I hope so.
I haven't used that picture in a while. Unlike on our
not for the Run VGM shirt, but for like the normal logo with the logos in the back or Pixel Peeps are on the front.
There's the classic hip hop Run DMC shirt, but it says Run VGM, which that's like my favorite T-shirt, and I wear it so much my wife was like tired of seeing it. And then in jokes, we have a T-shirt for Lobster Racing, which is a lobster in a race car, and it looks like an old school Atari cartridge that I designed. And it's
a good song. Or it's a good game.
It's an excellent game. It's just people gambling on lobsters racing. All right, one more thing. There's a show on Netflix called We Are the Champions. I don't know if you have Netflix or not, but if our listeners do, it's incredible. It's narrated by Rainn Wilson, and it is all about competitors in professional competitions that is not mainstream sports. So one of them is a chili pepper eating contest. One of them is choreographed dancing with your dogs, but one of them is frog racing. It's awesome. It's not really racing, but it's like how far can they jump? And they train these frogs. And what they do is after they train these frogs and they compete with them, they turn them back into the wild where they caught them, because then they continue their lineage. And then the next year, they get the same line of frogs. So it's like a family of professional sports frogs that they keep getting from the same creek. It's incredible. So yeah, that's a great show. All right. And our topic this week. Do you remember who raised...
Reinhard Zelkova.
Reinhardt?
Yeah. Patron and friend Reinhard Zelkova suggested this topic.
Oh, Reinhard Zelkova. I thought you said Ryan Hart, because we were talking about pro wrestling earlier.
Reinhardt!
Yeah, so Reinhard Zelkova, one of our Patreon members, was like, hey, you have never played any music from Xenogears. And we went back and looked, and we were like, whoa, we missed Xenogears entirely on the show for 5 years.
That doesn't even make sense because it's got such a great OST.
Yeah, and the composer, Yasunori Mitsuda, is among my favorites. So today we are doing a deep dive, a full composer focus on Yasunori Mitsuda.
That's right, the Mitsudist.
So yeah, Yasunori Mitsuda, so he is classically trained. Of course, like you and I for now, he was really interested in computers when he was younger, but then got interested in music as he grew up. So he was classically trained in college, and then in 1992, I guess he was friends with him, or he was somehow acquainted with him. But Nobuo Uematsu showed him an advertisement for the music department at Squaresoft. He said, "Hey, there's an opening at Squaresoft," and so he joined the sound team in 1992. And he just worked as a sound engineer, doing sound effects and mixing and just doing kind of behind the scenes stuff. But he always wanted to do a soundtrack. And so he gave the company an ultimatum. He said, "You let me compose a game, or I'm going to quit." And so they said, "Okay, here's the project we're working on, Chrono Trigger." And so he worked on Chrono Trigger with, I forget the other composer's name, but he did it under the watch of Uematsu, who was working on Final Fantasy VI at the same time, because both of these games were being produced concurrently. Mitsuda,
they both came out around the same time.
Yeah, so Mitsuda developed stomach ulcers and horrible, he worked himself to death because he needed to prove to himself, and he needed to prove to Square that he could produce this game. And he produced almost 70 or 50 tracks for Chrono Trigger. And so by the end of working on that game, he was hospitalized for just overwork and ulcers.
It goes to show, though,
killed himself.
It sucks that he had to go through that,
yeah.
But the fact that Chrono Trigger to this day is still one of the most beloved OSTs ever composed,
yes,
goes to show that his work didn't go for naught, because he bled for that track, for that OST, and we appreciate it.
It's so good. It's still, for me, one of my favorite soundtracks. The themes and the ending theme and the battle theme, they're so fantastic. So when he was in the hospital, Uematsu completed the soundtrack with, I think there were 10 songs that he finished. And then moving on from that, he worked with Uematsu on another one of my favorite OSTs from a game I've never played, Front Mission Gun Hazard. And that's a really cool soundtrack. And
I wish it came out. Did they come out in the States? I feel like that was one of the big ones that we didn't get.
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah, that was only in Japan and maybe Europe, but that never came out in the States. Both of those games came out in '96. And then he worked on Tobal #1, and then he went freelance in '98. And that's
which is weird. So it's like he didn't do a ton of tracks. I noticed, when I was looking at his works, he had those few games from the beginning, and then it was almost like he had one track for an entire OST, or maybe 5 tracks out of a 50-track OST. So it's almost like they were like, we need a big hitter for the big wow piece for this game. Get Mitsuda. What has he done? Chrono Trigger, Xenogears. What else? That's it. But that's all he needs to have done.
Yeah, he did. In '98 he went freelance, but then continued to do work for Square. He did Xenogears, and he did Chrono Cross, and he also worked on Mario Party in '98. Chrono Cross came out in '99, and then in 2000s he worked on a slew of other games, but he mainly with other composers. He Shadow Hearts, Xenosaga 1 and 2. A few others. Those are the main highlights. But in the end of the 2000s, he worked mainly as an arranger and as a producer for other soundtracks. And to this day, he also does music for advertisements and for anime and for what's those things where it's audio dramas that they release in Japan. So he does
you just said it. That's really what it is.
Yeah, and okay, good. That's what it's called, audio drama. He does a lot of that. So I'm really excited. We're going to hopefully play. I haven't seen your picks yet, so hopefully we're going to pick music from different games to show kind of the breadth of his musical style.
The wild.
Yeah, and you're going to hear a lot of similarities in some of these tracks, which is very cinematic. The melodies are it's very theme heavy, so themes are going to run through the songs. And then past Chrono Cross, I feel like it's more of kind of a Latin, more kind of an island kind of feel with his rhythms anyway, which is exciting. And for bonus round, I got some cool stuff. So, and I know you do too.
I might. Don't confirm it. It could be terrible. I could have the worst picks we've ever had on this show.
That's not possible today. That's not possible today. I know that.
I don't know, guys. You guys have had a great track record until now, but that abomination of a track from Mr. Purnell, woof.
Now, I don't think we're going to pick music in chronological order that he worked on. I don't think so. But we're gonna do some. We're just gonna pick around some tracks that we explored. Maybe some music that you've never heard of, or more obscure, deeper cuts of the composer Yasunori Mitsuda. So, Purnell, why don't you begin?
So, my first track is not obscure, but it is a surprise that he did it. When I came across, I was like, whoa, this was him? Cool. So, this is one of his most likely, we need this guy to come in and do a banger of a track, because I think it's the only track he did for the entire game. But it is from Kid Icarus Uprising for the Nintendo 3DS, and it is the Boss Battle 1 theme. welcome back. You're listening to the Boss Battle 1 theme from the game Kid Icarus Uprising on a Nintendo 3DS, composed by Yasunori Mitsuda. Again, I believe this is the only track he did for the entire game. If he didn't do just this, then there's only one other, probably the title theme. That would be fitting for him. This track is a fantastic theme that plays during some of the boss battles in the game, and it really adds a lot of tension to them, actually, and it gets you hyped up for the excitement and action that's going to come from the battle. The game itself, it bugs me how Nintendo is putting out all these like new updated games for the Switch. They're taking like a bunch of Wii U games and throwing them on the Switch. I feel like Kid Icarus Uprising, even if they have to retool it a bit, really needs to get a redo, because for those not familiar with this game, it has two methods of play. There's an element of the game where you're kind of like flying in the sky and you're moving pit around like almost like a rail shooter, and you're taking out enemies as they're flying in. And then there's another element where you're on the ground and you're running around and you're actually like shooting at guys and whacking them with like clubs and weapons, like melee weapons and ranged weapons, and you're exploring. But the way the control scheme works for it on the 3DS, it was so cumbersome that Nintendo ultimately had to release some ridiculous like stand for it. It's a portable console that they released a stand for. So you're supposed to put the stand up, set the 3DS on the stand so you didn't have to hold it while you played it, so you could actually hit the buttons without getting hand cramps and junk.
That is the most Nintendo thing I've ever heard.
It really is. And it's a shame because the game is fantastic, but it's so uncomfortable to play. Like, I hear people complain about controls and some games where it's like, well, jump should be the lower button, not the upper button. That's an annoyance. It doesn't outright break it. Kid Icarus, on the other hand, is like, oh god, like I can't even do this for more than 2 stages without putting it down.
Oh my god.
But when I do play those 2 stages, it's a lot of fun. And when you have music like this, because fun fact, all the music in this OST is on par with this. Like, it's not done by Mitsuda. It's done by a bunch of other composers, but they all brought their A game to it, and it shows. It's just a shame that more people haven't played it, and those who did are probably now suffering like terminal cramps or something. But it's worth trying out if you can get a hold of it, or at least sitting down to the OST. It's so banging.
Yeah, it's a good song. I mean, it's got the heavy guitar with the guitar solo, but again, you can hear like the melody is really, really strong through the guitar, through the string section. So there's like a lot of like orchestral type sounds mixed with everything else. And this is what he's all about. I read that like what he likes to do is just fool around on his keyboard until he lands in a melody that he really, really likes, and then he builds his track off of that. So, and then actually, towards the end of this track, it sort of sounds like a take on the original Kid Icarus theme, on the second half of this song. Maybe just
I'm gonna make sure you even caught that, because my memory of the original theme is like I know it, but I wasn't connecting it to like I know maybe
it's something else, but that's Hirokazu Tanaka, and so for him to take something like that and to really flip it around but have some similar feel to the original theme of the game is really cool. And it's a boss battle, so it's super fast, it's super fun. It has a lot of movements to it, so as you're doing the boss battle, it doesn't feel like a one note through the whole thing. I think that's really when the music really carries the gameplay like that.
And they did a good job of it here, because honestly, when this episode is done, if I can bring myself to it, I may well break the game out just to see if I can enjoy it again, or at least do like 2 stages or so, because I never finished it. You can probably guess why, and it's not the normal Purnell doesn't beat games.
You're going to break the game out, but it sounded like I'm just going to break the game. I'm just going to break it.
Just snap it. Going to break it over my knee. Screw this stand. This actually still sitting on my cabinet and everything. I have all of this stuff, including the stand from it.
Oh, you even have the stand too, huh?
So I have the stand. Got everything.
All right, so we are moving on to back into the PlayStation. We're gonna listen to Xenogears, which we've never played on the show. I cannot believe it. And we're gonna listen to the track "Deadly Dance," which I think is battle music, maybe a mid-boss battle. I'm not.
I may know it if I hear it, because I've played a lot of that game.
Oh, good.
Not finishing it.
Yeah, we need your help here. I need your help here because I don't remember. So this is Deadly Dance from Xenogears for the Sony PlayStation. We're listening to Deadly Dance from the game Xenogears for the Sony PlayStation, composed by Yasunori Mitsuda. Man, this song is so cool. And you said it was battle music?
This is the main battle theme, yeah.
Oh, this is the main battle
I
theme.
love this track. It's a fantastic track.
It's kind of slow. Like, I feel like for main battle, it's got kind of a slower pace.
But it works because it's the tempo that, well, I guess that's what you would call it. It's the tempo that makes it work. Because it's not fast, but it hits high. So it's very appropriate for when you're battling, because the battles in this game, there's two types of battles. One of which I love and one of which I didn't, which is also slightly why I never finished the game. Because I got to the last boss, and the last boss is bought. Well, I'll get to that. So the main battle type is when your characters are on foot. And when you're on foot, combat consists of you selecting attack to choose a target, but then there are buttons, like the face buttons on the PlayStation controller, can be strung together to perform combos, and then they lead into like finishing moves. And so you might do like punch, kick, and then the last button will be like, if you push, you'll do like, phase like triple kick or something. So they'll go, and it'll be like his triple kick damage. And then you'll do that over and over, and eventually he'll unlock a string off, a branch off. So it'll go punch, kick, and he can either do another button press to do a triple kick, or he can do circle to do like a sickle or something, a running sickle. And he'll have those two options, and you just keep branching out and having options for like these strings of moves you can do. And it ends up being a lot of fun to fight like that. The second battle type is in your gears. Gears basically being giant, kaiju robots, essentially. And the characters get inside of them, and that's when the gameplay battles, in my opinion, it's much slower. Like, mech combat is really slow. You eventually end up getting to a point where you have a resource known as fuel, basically because robots run on fuel, and you have to be conservative of how much fuel you've got for everything you do, and if you run out of fuel, you're kind of screwed. It annoyed me. Like, I get at the time that it was like, hey, I think at the time there weren't any other games aside from maybe Metal Max, which we weren't getting in the States, that had characters fighting in an RPG in mech combat, in mech suits. So for the States, this was kind of a new gimmick of, hey, everybody's piloting giant robots. This is awesome.
Yeah, I remember I never played this one, but I remember seeing it in magazines and hearing about it and thinking that having two different battle systems like that was a really cool idea. And then I also heard that the story is like crazy convoluted and like classic Square, doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, all right.
But that's the thing, like, it's not so much that doesn't make sense as it is, it's genuinely deep, where like if you play it from a general casual perspective, and when I say casual, I don't mean like, oh, filthy casual.
No, that's me. I'm terrible casual. I'm a terrible video game player.
Oh, stop it.
I am.
I'm saying casual, yeah, but I'm saying like casual as in like, when I sometimes review games, I'll say, I wasn't all that concerned about the narrative. I was just going from point A to point B. This kid needs help. Here's your berry child. Oh, punch a boss. No, this you want to pay attention to what people say and what they do. You want to understand why you're going to locations and what this location is all about, because if the narrative actually tricks to the point where they reference that, and that location also was a reason for why this technology was created, which resulted in this guy actually not being who he says he is, blah, blah, blah. It all weaves together in a way where if you're not paying attention, when that big hammer drops, you're going to miss a beat. And if you miss one beat, you miss multiple beats, and it kind of tears it down. The other really big issue with the narrative in this game, and what kind of irks me about Square in general, is that at the time they were developing Xenogears, they were in a bit of a budget crunch. They could not afford to properly complete the game. So, and you might have heard people talk about this in general RPG circles, but the first disc is a masterpiece. The second disc is depressing because they had to take a lot of shortcuts. So rather than being like exploring a world and going to locations and experiencing the narrative as you progress like a JRPG typical, it becomes almost a visual novel where it'll have like strings of text, like just blocks of text explaining the team went to this location and where they got there they discovered something horrible, blah blah blah. And then every once in a while they'll just like dump you into a dungeon, because that's the dungeon you would have been playing during that point in the game, and Square had already finished the dungeon. So well, I guess we can let them do it. And it just does that for hours and hours. And at the very end of the game, they let you access the world map again, but most of the locations on the map are like blocked off because they don't have anything there for you to do. And you can just like go to the final dungeon and like play through it. And it's just, they remade Final Fantasy VII, which really didn't need to be remade at all. This game deserves a real remake. It deserves a completed remake. And it depressing me from a gamer perspective. Not like I'm sitting here bawling tears or nothing. Come on, folks. But it depresses me that they just let it languish back there, knowing that there's an audience that would genuinely appreciate it if they gave it the work that it deserves. Now, I'm not sure if it's because of any relationship, like the whole, like, the idea that there's, like, the Xenoblade series, which I never quite dug deep enough to remember whether or not, like, Monolith Soft was, like, a weird spinoff of what used to be a part of Squaresoft, which was affiliated with Xenogears. I don't remember, but I could see it being possible, because Xenogears did lead into Xenosaga, which isn't... It's like not like a one-to-one, but there's like a slight relationship between them somewhat, but I don't freaking know, because I hated Xenosaga. Don't quote me on that, anybody. Actually, do. I hated the game. But then after Xenosaga, you then get the Xenoblade games, and again, I don't know... I know they're not related narratively, but the Xeno concept might be.
So Monolith Soft is a subsidiary of Nintendo.
Yeah, they are citizens. That's what I'm saying. I know they are now,
yeah.
But I'm saying, like, initially, like, where did they come from before they became a subsidiary of Nintendo?
A brief Google search says that there are no story connections between these games.
Oh, no, between Xenogears and Xenosaga, though?
Xenoblade and Xeno...
Not because, like, Xenoblade...
God, I've been seeing these words, and they all look the same to me. I'm just going to stop.
Trust me, don't go down the rabbit hole. But what I can say, because I gotta feel like EB might hit us with the good word.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. I need some help.
But what I can say, at least from what I do know, is that Xenoblade has nothing to do narratively with Xenogears or Xenosaga. It's just the general concept of Xeno that gets people thinking: are they associated by development team? Because even though they're a subsidiary of Nintendo, they had to come from somewhere, and maybe some of those people were originally working with Square when Xenogears was made. But I do know that Xenosaga does have a slight tie-in narratively with Xenogears, but you have to kind of like dig into it and all that. And again, I didn't like Xenosaga enough to go that deep. I just knew it and walked away.
Well, if we go back to Chrono Cross, so Chrono Cross being sort of the sequel or the successor to Chrono Trigger, I mean, again, like... I feel like there were connections back to Chrono Trigger, but there were
there was.
They were unnecessary, and they were unnecessary and convoluted.
They weren't too well. The narrative as a whole was, but the main connection that mattered wasn't too convoluted. It's just the Time Devourer was basically Lavo. That's all.
Yeah, I know. That's
the connection. They remade the DS game. They remade Chrono Trigger on the DS. Mm-hmm. And when they did that remake, they added a bonus dungeon, which the final boss of the dungeon was basically the tie-in that tells you why Shala was connected to the Time Devourer. That's essentially it.
Okay, I don't know. I remember like going through that and being like, I'm not super interested in the story. Maybe like when I play an RPG long enough, I become less interested in the story. Which is probably the worst thing ever, right?
That's usually how they write it. Chrono Cross got weird when you became Lynx, and at that point it was like, what's even happening anymore?
Yeah.
And at that point, a lot of people typed off. Well, it was interesting, but it didn't make sense. It was like, this thing happens. You don't know why it happens. You don't know what to do with the darn Panther. They do eventually explain it by the end, but by that point I was mentally tapped out because it was just a lot of convoluted gubble-gubble. But leading up to that, it made sense. They gave you this narrative where you just got dumped into this parallel world. And though that was still something you had to figure out, the main narrative became dealing with the poor family, P-O-R-E, and getting into that stinking mansion and dealing with all that stuff. So, it was only when they brought Lynx back and they got all weird and messy. Like, you got scratched by a panther when you were a child? Well, that explains something. Yeah, whatever.
I know, it's Squaresoft. Just those stories and the way they write things. It's a little strange. A little over-the-top, convoluted. Like Kingdom Hearts. There you go.
Little disco dashy.
All right, so we're on to your second track. What game are you going to pick from?
Well, I was going to say don't do Xenogears now because we only need it once on the show, but I still want to pick Xenogears, so that just means I got to figure out which of my tracks don't make the cut in the long run. So, but this track is one that I really like, and it was a hard choice between the Xenogears for these two tracks because there are 3 tracks in the OST that really hit with me, 2 that I consider for the show, but also I'm settling on this one. This is the Black Moon Forest from the Xenogears, composed by Yasunori Mitsuda. Welcome back. You're listening to the Black Moon Forest, track from the game Xenogears, composed by Yasunori Mitsuda. For all the tracks that this game has, as fantastic as they are, some of which many would expect to be more in my wheelhouse even, I have to say, this one is tied for my favorite in the entire OST, coupled with Wind from the Valley and Fuse. It's the first dungeon, quote-unquote, that you enter in the game. The Blackwood Forest is where you have to pass through from your hometown to get to the desert town. I'm going to say it's the Desert Kingdom. But it's just so good, and it's very appropriate for the environment you're in, because it is like a dark forest. But I like how it goes from being like a dark, like creepy-esque theme to more of like a sort of like you're in a forest clearing sort of theme. Like, you know, like you're kind of like you're sitting out and it's like, hey, there's the light kind of shining through the canopy of the trees, hitting down. And it's like do 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 do, like you're walking through this like wooded area with like a little bit of light shining down. It does such a good job. It's fantastic.
What's interesting is that opening section doesn't repeat. There's like this long, almost sinister, kind of scary sound that then like kind of slowly fades out, and then it swells into this major chord with these strings.
When you think about it, though, it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, it's so good. What's that?
In a way, when you think about it, though, it kind of makes sense that it would do that. From if he was composing it with the intent being to go in this exact spot in the game, being that, so, you know, when you enter the forest, you expect it to be like this scary place. This is a dangerous forest. You don't go in there. Don't go in. So when you first walk in the forest, it's like, oh, what's going on? This is a scary place. All the eyes sticking out, you know, peeking at you from out behind the brush. And the music starts to play. It is scary. But then as you start to try to reverse it into it, you get deeper, and you're like, wait, this isn't so bad. It's actually kind of serene. Do.
Yeah, but then you get to this section right here. It's beautiful, and then
it's the adventure.
Every one of these hits.
Like, you could probably map out a sense of progression into your sense of your feeling as you progress into the forest, just by the way it plays.
Is that it's this section back into those little steps right here. It doesn't go back to the scary section. It just keeps looping back into this little journey into the forest.
And it's just good. That's why I think it's great. Honestly, it's been years, and I mean really years since I've played this, and I kind of want to try it again now to see how I feel about it now. But I wouldn't be surprised if that scary part doesn't even come back after a battle.
Yeah, probably not. It probably just goes back to the main, because it probably goes back to playing from the main looped sections. It's probably like tagged at different times of the song. But yeah, even those little piano chords are kind of minor and a little dissonant from the rest of the song. And I feel like that's something Mitsuda does in a lot of his songs. Like, it's almost kind of jazzy in a way. Where he's playing with all these different notes, but they all fit in this big, I don't know, adventurous, epic feeling song. So this song really reminds me of Chrono Cross. This song really reminds me of Final Fantasy X, actually.
Oh man, it had to hit the button.
This is the Macalania Woods right here, Macalania Woods from Final Fantasy X. But I'll stop. I won't make any more.
That was too late. We already had to mark the board. We already had to change the post-it note on the board.
I gotta wipe the board. This many weeks since Rob's talked about Final Fantasy X.
That's right.
Sorry,
post-it. It's okay. It's what makes you great. If you didn't, we'd be like, "Are you okay, Rob? You haven't talked about it in a while."
Our next track is coming from the game Shadow Hearts, which I'm not familiar with. You are, right?
More or less, yeah. I can talk a little about it. It's a weird game.
Yeah, I don't know much about it, but this is music from the game Shadow Hearts. This track is called City, or it's from the section of the game that's just the city, and it is composed by Yasunori Mitsuda. This is the music City from the game Shadow Hearts for the Sony PlayStation. And again, you've got like just this weird kind of off-key minor sounding flute, but then this funky organ, this rock organ comes in. It's like, where did Nobuo Uematsu come from? And then you get like that hard slap bass, and then the waka chicka guitar starts.
The waka chicka waka.
The waka chicka, yeah.
Admittedly, that's the way you describe it, though. It's the way you do it.
Yeah, waka chicka.
I feel like now I want a chicken. I want an actual chicken that squawks like that. It's like every time he runs around the hen house. Waka chicka, waka chicka, waka chicka, waka chicka. Just running around.
Waka chicka, waka chicka.
It's like, I got my favorite chicken right here. Are you gonna cook him? No! He's the waka chicka bird. He ain't going nowhere. This is my baby.
Oh my god. And this track is super neat. It's dark, but it's funky at the same time because of that guitar and that organ. And then the flute comes back, and it's just, again, it has a weird fantasy feel to what is really kind of a dark funk tune. It's really interesting. And then it sounds like it goes underwater onto the second half of the track right here. Like everything's coming up. All the instruments are starting to fade out. You're just back to that guitar.
There's actually a number.
And then that's it. The percussion's gone. And you're underwater.
The funny thing is, like, I always think it's funny though, because like I look back on my time because I played some of Shadow Hearts. This actually came up maybe a few weeks ago. Actually, we were talking about somebody about Shadow Hearts and how like I own all 3 of them, and only played some of the first. One of them was a gift from a friend, and the third one I bought to complete the set. But I've only ever played some of the first, and I feel like I could go back to it now and appreciate it from a different light because I disliked it before because the battle system bugged me because they used something called judgment rings where, you know, there was a period in RPG history where developers were trying to come up with a way to spice up turn-based combat. Grandia had the sort of like the interrupt gauge. Legend of Legaia had its combo meter where you could choose like the different like punch kick and that would give you your combo attack.
Yeah,
or whatever.
even Final Fantasy into 5 or 6 had the active battle mode, and Chrono Cross had like the color, like the magic color system. So the field was a specific color. You can amplify your attacks.
Legend of Dragoon had the square where it would spin around, and when it stopped and when it centered itself, that's when you time your button presses. And with this game, the way it tried to do it was with Judgment Ring, which was a circle that looked kind of like a dial. And as you know, it was a circle, and then a dial would spin around it. And then you had the time when to press the button to stop the dial in the circle. And depending on where you stopped, it determined how effective the attack was. There was a sweet spot for crits. There was a small but larger window for just the attack connected. And then the majority of the circle was if you hit it here, it missed. So it was like, you always had to be mindful of your timing. There were items to slow the timing down. There were items that would speed the timing up, but it would allow you to do more damage if you connected with it, and stuff like that. And for some reason, at that time, I was like, this is annoying to me. I don't like the idea of fighting a boss and having this critical moment where I just screwed up because I just didn't hit it in the critical zone well enough. It bugged me, and I didn't stick with it. And the thing that really ultimately said after that was like, okay, I'm done, was in addition to that, there was this one part in the game where, you meet an old lady in a town, and she starts to tell you a story about like a haunted legend that took place there where someone got killed by a spirit or whatever. But the way she tells it, well, it's audio, it's voice by the way, but she tells it like a lady who really needs a throat lozenge. Like she's like, and then the monster went like she does that like guttural sound. And she just keeps doing it over and over again as she's telling the story. And it makes you laugh hard. You're like, is this serious? Were they taking this seriously when they voiced this? I don't know anymore. This is ridiculous. And I'm not the guy to usually be like, this voice acting work is bizarre. I don't like it. But this was the one time where I was like, I can't even take this seriously anymore. This is just terrible. But, and then it goes, it's so bad. But that was around the time I stopped. But I also like that you can play as like Roger Bacon is in the game. If I remember correctly, Roger Bacon from back then, because I don't remember anymore, but at the time I recall Roger Bacon was actually a historical figure. But they just threw him in the game. He was a philosopher. There we go. But they put him in the game as a guy in like in a dress attire and a top hat and cane, who for a while at least was like the main antagonist. But it was such a weird game. But I kind of want to go back and revisit it now because, again, it's sitting on my shelf. I probably even still have my old save file from it. It's a matter of playing it. You meet a Russian spy who's like, she calls it like airstrikes with her phone.
I'll tell you this. I don't know much about this game. That dial system where you have to like hit it to get criticals, like it's like you spin a dial and you have to hit it at the right timing. That sounds super familiar to me, and the picture of it looks really familiar. So maybe I did play this for a while, but I'm Googling through the monsters of this game, and they are genuinely like unsettling and weirdly like a mix of like monster, like movie monster and like human anatomy. like kind of mashed together. It's really like kind of.
And if I remember correctly, the main character turns into monsters too.
Oh, no kidding.
He can transform into monsters at will or something like that.
They are.
Yeah,
crazy.
I think you earn more transformations as you play the game. This is all like, I usually have a really good memory of my games, but this is one where it's like I feel like it's a little loose. But I do know that he could turn to a monster. I just can't remember if he could get additional monster forms.
I like this music. Is like the rest of this movie have kind of like a dark kind of horror vibe to it?
It's a dark game, but it's got light dialogue. So, like, for example, the main character meets a girl near the beginning of the game named Alice, and that's the main relationship of the game. But Yuri, the main character, is generally fairly light in his text, despite the fact that he's also kind of like, I don't give a crap, I'll just kill him. But he's goofy about it half the time. So it's like, is he serious? Is he not? I don't know. Again, you meet a Russian spy who calls in airstrikes from her giant phone. Like, there's a lot of elements to this game that you can tell are not meant to be taken. It's like it's meant to be tongue-in-cheek, and yet at the same time, the story as a whole is very serious, and the world itself is very dark.
Kind of mixed together there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we are on to your third track right now, right?
Mm-hmm. And since you just picked from Xenogears, from Shadow Hearts, maybe I'll save mine for the end of the show and go with a different track instead. So this comes from a game that I used to play quite a bit on the PS Vita with Mike called Soul Sacrifice. It was their attempt at taking on, the Monster Hunter style game of people getting together and hunting and like repeating stages or whatever with equipment, blah, blah, blah. You get the point. But the game's track, the music in this game is actually really good. Some of it's pretty unsettling. Some of it I don't think I typically would pick for this show, but I think this one's a good one. It's called Non-Humans. And it's composed by, you know who it is. So, let's just do that.
It's quite the ending there, man.
Yeah, right. You better have won the battle by then, or else, woof.
That note right there was like, "You are dead." That's what it sounded like.
Yeah, battles in this. Oh, well, I'll reiterate. This is the track "Non-Humans" from the game Soul Sacrifice on the PlayStation Vita. And this game, some of the bad boss battles in this game, if you didn't come with a decent loadout, they will mop the floor with you. The game gets pretty hard, honestly, from what I remember. I wouldn't say I was even all that great at it, but I did like what I played of it for the time that I did. And I did end up getting the updated sequel eventually. I bought it off of Joe, actually, and he gave me a good solid, because if I remember correctly, it sells for a decent penny nowadays, but at the time, he gave it to me for, like, cost, which was awesome. But, Soul Sacrifice is a pretty quality game. You literally end up, the loadouts you make are, like, things that are supposed to, like you're probably have like a monster arm or something, so you're kind of like, it's like this gross description where it's like that's like binding itself to your flesh, blah. But in the end, you end up like launching like cool different projectiles, like a bone boomerang and like fireballs and stuff, and you're just dashing around, beating up poor like pretty grotesque monsters actually.
Oh yeah.
Like there's not a beautiful thing in this game at all. Nothing. It's just gross crap. Even the giant angels you eventually start fighting, they're like closer to like biblical angels than like typical angels you see in like TV. But it's a good game overall if you can deal with that kind of stuff.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, the enemies in Shadow Hearts look pretty sinister and dark too. So this has got that kind of feel to it also.
Yeah, it's a quality product.
Yeah, the music on this episode's really been running the range of highs and lows, and this has less of that sound that we were talking about before, and more of like a straightforward horror movie, like being chased by something.
Yeah. And I could see that being fitting too. Again, like a lot of creepy monsters in the game, so maybe for this particular track, he was going for like horror theme, a horror movie.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
But I love the track, and I like the idea of like this giant like monster chasing you around, and you're trying to fight back, but at the same time you're running from it too, like running and shooting backwards, like get away from me.
Reminds me of some scenes from House of the Dead, where like you're running and then it turns around and you have to like zap the screen and I don't know, zap the screen.
I actually like games like that, and I wish more games would actively make it so that you were running, but also had to like stop and turn around occasionally.
Yeah.
It's like, crap, turn around, shoot back, and if you don't turn around at the right times, they're going to catch up to you. Just like it would be if you were actually running. Like, you don't just know they're catching up, you have to feel like they're catching up.
Exactly, yeah.
You turn around and shoot back.
A lot of these games, like you have a view like from above your player, and you can kind of see what's going on. And for a game, you know, it's only fair to have an idea of a perception of where things are in relation to, you know, your main character and where you can get hit, right?
Yeah.
But to do it that way, that's interesting. So this next track is from a game very different, very, very different.
No souls are being sacrificed in the making of your game.
Yeah, no, we're going all the way back to 1996. This is Tobal #1 for the Sony PlayStation. Another SquareSoft game, but it is a fighting game / adventure game, but mainly a fighting game, which I think most people bought because of the Final Fantasy VII sampler CD included.
Ooh, the sampler.
Yeah, there was like I think you can get like it was like the first stage or the first like what's that where you can go to fight the reactor or destroy the reactor.
That's the wrong guy. I sucked at Tobal.
Oh, anyway.
You're talking about Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah, Final Fantasy VII.
The
demo. So there's the sampler demo CD of Final Fantasy VII packed in with Tobal #1. Which I'm going to guess is that the majority of people who bought Tobal #1 bought it for the Final Fantasy VII demo.
I did. Well, that's the question. I didn't buy Tobal #1, but I wanted it for the demo.
Yeah. Oh, man. So that takes me way back in the day when before Star Wars Episode 1 came out, there was so much hype that they were making another Star Wars movie, right? Mm-hmm. And so the very first trailer that was coming out for it was it was a trailer for one of this horrible. It was for the movie for Wing Commander, the video game movie adaptation Wing Commander. Man, that had a pretty good cast, but no, terrible movie. And there was a trailer, and so we all went to the movie to see the trailer for Star Wars Episode 1, and then stayed for the movie, which was okay. Had Freddie Prinze Jr. And Matt Lillard, who in the future went on to be in the Scooby-Doo movies as Fred and Scooby. Not Scooby.
Shaggy.
Shaggy, respectively. Yeah, Scooby.
No, he did not play the dog.
Anyway, this is music from Tobal #1, which had 8 composers from Squaresoft in it. And Yasunori Mitsuda did 2, maybe 3 tracks on the soundtrack. And this is one of them. This is the name entry screen for a high score. So this is called Your Name Is from Tobal #1 for the Sony PlayStation.
Your name is what? Your name is who? Your name is...
Wiki Mitsuda. So dumb. boy, this chill track, which I should probably send a Hammock over at KVGM. Hammock! The Last Wave. This is the Your Name Is. This is like the name entry screen from Tobal #1 for the Sony PlayStation. This came out just before Final Fantasy VII was released, and people were super excited for maybe a fighting game. I guess at 97, 98, kids, maybe my age, around high school, are very excited about anime, about Dragon Ball. JRPGs are just becoming more mainstream in the States. And here comes a fighting game, a 3D fighting game from Squaresoft with artwork by Akira Toriyama. You know, that's kind of a cool thing, right? Like, that's probably, not exactly a slam dunk, but it's interesting enough to get some steam.
Yeah, it's honestly pretty cool in the sense that, I remember when this game first came out, too. Like, I was mainly interested because of the Akira Toriyama art. I'm not even going to front. But what made it really awesome to me was that the home releases of this added this cool dungeon exploration mode to it, which was very unlike a fighting game. So, were you familiar with the dungeon running?
No, I don't know much anything about this game. I think I played it 2-player, maybe just a few times, because I played a lot of fighting games, especially around this time of my life. So, and it just, I remember it was kind of a mix between Ehrgeiz and Tekken a little bit.
Yeah, well, it wasn't as, if I remember correctly, the battle wasn't as free flow as Tekken. It wasn't as free flow as Ehrgeiz was.
Yeah.
Ehrgeiz was 100%. You could just run where you wanted to run.
Right.
Whereas Tobal still kind of kept you lined up with each other, but I think you could break it every once in a while, maybe. It's been a long time. And I've actually never owned Tobal. I used to play other people's and rented it. But it was just a matter of, I liked that dungeon element even existed in the game where you just ran around. But with the battles themselves, you fought monsters, but you fought them like it was a fighting game.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know, they tried that. I want to say they tried that. Maybe that was the idea with the Mortal Kombat Adventure series for Sub-Zero, but that looked just boring, man. It was like you travel through like a dungeon fighting things, but it was really like just running left to right, fighting the same thing over and over again. But never been a Mortal Kombat fan. Just didn't like everything felt really, I don't know, just kind of stiff.
But Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat feels stiff, man. Like everything, with Street Fighter, everything has like a rhythm to it and it flows. Mortal Kombat, everything just kind of stops.
The first and second game.
Everyone's like back is like super poker straight. You know, it's so strange.
I mean, I assume they fixed it by then, but I know at least the first and second game, I remember using Sonya Blade, and when she would go from her stance to that flying kick she could do, it was a very janky motion. It would just go she would just box herself up like a crumbled piece of paper. It's yeah, it's kick across the screen. There was no fluid stance change. It was just crumpled paper, jump. So it was but at the time it was also the technology, and I let it go. They were trying to be more realistic than Street Fighter. Funny how I say that because he rips spines out, but just more they were going for more these look as close to humans as we could get in the game right now, as opposed to Street Fighter, which was kind of animated still.
Yeah, I like the anime style more in fighting games. It just lends itself to that style for me a lot more. I don't have that nostalgia. I played a lot of Mortal Kombat when I was younger because, I was 14 and cartoon violence was the thing,
Oh yeah.
I guess I was 14. I was probably younger, but man, that was the stuff. Now it's and that's what brought across that helped bring about the M rating and the rating system for video games. It's a different world these days.
From where we come from?
Woo! I'm not even going to start.
Yeah.
I kind of want those glasses, though. The Dwayne Wayne glasses.
Here's a chance to make it. Yeah!
If you got...
Focus on our goals!
You could pull them off, though. If you got the Dwayne Wayne glasses...
I would wear them today, and I wouldn't even sweat it.
Yeah.
Those things were legit. Honestly, they were convenient, too. The idea to have it, because they would get past the whole shades issue.
Yeah.
Can't wear sunglasses when you wear glasses, but Dwayne Wayne didn't give two hoots. He's flip up, flip down.
Yeah, flip up, flip down. You need to wear a lot more color, though. You a lot of purples and bright yellows.
Some razzmatazz.
Some of that good 90s gear. Hypercolor.
Zesty pizzazz.
All right, I'm going to turn this super dope chill track down, and we're going to get into the part of the show that we call the bonus round.
Bonus round. The bonus round. Gonna listen to so cool songs. It's a different set. It's a different set of the show. I'm stuck.
Where you come from?
Someone's like, what's wrong with him right now? Is he having a seizure?
This is not different strokes. This is Pernell having a stroke. No, different world.
Oh,
different
mercy.
Strokes. All right. So,
mercy!
So the bonus round. The bonus round is where we play covers and remixes and arrangements on our theme. And our theme is the music of Yasunori Mitsuda. So, Pernell, what'd you find?
Well, I was actually stringing and looking for some stuff, some cool chatter and batter, and I came across a track cover from Dale North, which he does good work overall, but I don't think I've ever really picked a Dale North thing for the show. So it's time to remedy that. And what that track is a cover from Xenogears, and it is called Broken Mirror. It's his version of the track Too Small of Pieces from that game. So here's the hoping that it sounds as good to you as it did to me.
Run through the cold of the night as passion burns in your heart, ready to fight, a knife held close by your side. Like a proud wolf alone in the dark, with eyes that watch the world, and my name like a shadow on the face of the moon. Broken mirror, a million shades of light, the old echo fades away, but just you and I will find the answers, and then we can run till the end of the world. We can run till the end. Cold fire clenched to my heart in the blue of night, torn by this pain. I paid your name in sound, and the girl of the dawn with eyes of blue and angel wings. The songs of the season are her only ground. A million shades of light, the old echo fades away, but just you and I will find
welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that nice piece by Dale North being called Broken Mirror from his version of Too Small of Pieces from the game Xenogears. He slapped some sweet, sweet vocals in there with his words, his voice, his deliciousness. It's great.
Were there lyrics to the original music?
You're asking the wrong guy. You gotta remember, man, it's been a minute for me with this game. And also, I can also attest to, I was never one for like a lot of like openings and endings in games where it was like, hey, we gotta sing it to take you on this really cool song. Like I never quite got down with it. It was always like stuff like the Ease ending and like Super Mario World ending that stuck with me, but it's very rare that something really makes me go, that ending really I want to remember this. I want to keep playing it in my head.
Yeah.
So I don't remember this one too much, but I also, off the top of my head, don't recall any vocal tracks in this game, but I also didn't finish it. So if this was like the ending track, for example, I never heard it because I didn't beat the game. I couldn't beat Deus, or rather I couldn't beat the thing that came after Deus. But anyway, the track itself, though, this is really nice. Like I wasn't expecting it to resonate with me that well because I'm usually more of a harsh, louder, faster tempo guy.
Yeah. But
maybe with the time I heard it, maybe it was the way I heard it. I don't know, but I really like this track a lot. It's nice. It's calming even.
Well, we're gonna do a similar track here. So, similar-ish. So, and maybe it's just. Like his Mitsuda's style lends itself to kind of like these sort of sweeping, almost kind of love songs or ballads. So this is I believe it is the credit roll song from Rockman -2, and which is Mega Man Legends 2. Which did that come out in the States? Mega Man Legends 2?
Yes, it did.
Oh, it did. Okay.
It did. I wonder how much it sells for now. I'm curious. It was sold for a lot at one point, though. I know that.
My phone is buzzing. Hold on. So yeah, and Mitsuda in the late or mid to late 2000s was kind of asked to do a bunch of arrangements, and so you see him on arrangements on arranged albums for some Capcom games too. And so he did an arrangement of a track from Rockman Dash. So this is called The Place Where Wishes Come True from Rockman -2, composed by Fumi Oto, and this is arranged by Yasunori Mitsuda and with lyrics and vocals by Fumi Oto. This whole album has lyrics to, like a lot of lyrics going on here, and it's very interesting. So here we go. This is The Place Where Wishes Come True.
聞かせてみてよ
This is The Place Where Wishes Come True from Rockman Dash 2, composed by Fumi Oto, arranged by Yasunori Mitsuda, with lyrics and vocals by Fumi Oto. So, yeah, it's really interesting. I think a lot of the lyrics and vocals on the arranged album are all performed and written by the original composers, and then they're arranged by other composers in video games.
I was a big fan of this. Like it very much sounded like what would have been like an old '90s anime.
Yeah, but with like a kind of a really like a dream pop song with a whole lot of like echo and reverb on the guitar and on the vocals. I thought of you when I found this song because it sounds like something that you'd be into, like a nice, happy, like chill song with female vocals in it.
You chose correctly then, sir, because I was pleased with this.
All right, for more information on the bonus round, go to rhythmandpixels.com. We'll have links to the SoundClouds and Bandcamps and everywhere you can find this music, buy this music, and support the artists. All right, thanks for joining us on episode 26-1 of Rhythm and Pixels. This is our focus on the music of the composer Yasunori Mitsuda. And man, we picked music from all over his catalog of games that he's worked on. There's still more. There's still a lot more that we can pick through and find, even on soundtracks where he only did a handful of songs. But there's a lot more to get to.
Yeah, that's correct. Like I had one on here that I had written on my short list, but I didn't want to pick it over the ones I had from Pop and Music 20 that he apparently did. Progressive real, I think, was the genre it was considered to be a part of. So it's an interesting. Like I said, I genuinely feel as though he may well have earned that label of being the guy where it's like, look, we need somebody that really knows their stuff to come out here and make the banger track for this OST. Can we just hire you to do one track?
Right. So it's like yeah, we need like one track that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. You come in and do that.
Can you be that guy?
You be that guy.
You
for us.
bet I can. Someone so powerful.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. We haven't done a composer focus in a while, and this was a good one to start with. And is this coming out? This is our first podcast of the year. No, it's not.
No, it'll be it'll be like pretty much New Year's Eve when it releases, or the day before.
Wow, this is the last podcast of 2020.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Feels weird, doesn't it?
That's amazing.
We made it.
If you're listening to this far at the end of this week, this will be Saturday, January 2nd. We are having our Patreon live streamed episode for December, but it's going to be in January. So, but
to be honest, all things considered, we may have to pick our own tracks, but we'll see how it plays out leading up to it. But I feel like we had two different topics that got mentioned at the beginning of December, end of November, and it was between like winter and food-based tracks.
Something like that. But I think we're going to do, it's going to be 2020. So it's January 2nd, Saturday at 2:30 p.m. That's Eastern time, Eastern American time. And it's going to be music for 2020, whether it's all the good, or it's all the bad, it's the horrible, the absolute horrible, everything of 2020.
But do we have time for the change now, though?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anyone really picked up on what we had chosen before because we just mentioned it on the show. I didn't put it anywhere else.
That is true. So hopefully if you throw it out there, people have some time, they can throw it out there. I like the topic idea, honestly. So let's see what happens.
Anything open-ended is the best, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I'll make sure it's all getting posted right now on Patreon and on Facebook and all those other places. Now on Discord. I'll put it up on Discord before we get out of here too. But yeah, and so that's next week, and then all of January, almost all of January, every week we have guests coming on our show. So that you get a lot to look forward to. We have a big quiz show. We have a really special crossover episode with another podcast, and we have an old friend that might be coming by.
So, and then we might have another friend to wish us all luck. That's like an old theme I always found funny. He might stop by to wish you luck.
But yes, that's all coming up. So, and if you want to get in contact with us, if you have a track suggestion or a topic suggestion, just send us an email.
rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com.
For more full track listing of our show, of every episode, and access to all of our episodes, go to the website.
rhythmandpixels.com.
You can check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It's Rhythm and Pixels, all one word. You can just search for us there. We have a little group in Facebook called Rhythm and Pixels Chat. You can just look that up. YouTube.com/Rhythm and Pixels. All of our episodes are uploaded there as well. And we have a 24/7 live radio station there playing nothing but 8-bit and 16-bit classics. I'll be probably updating that this coming week with some more music and with some new like visuals and video and stuff that'll play along with the music. So yeah, that's all. It's not just random tracks. It's playing randomly for sure, but it's got all sorts of like it's all picked by.
It's curated.
It's all curated. It's good stuff to listen to while you're at home, while you're cooking, or while you're doing homework or doing whatever. So that's really cool. And if you want to support the show, all you got to do is tell people about it. It's always helpful. Or you can go to patreon.com/rhythmandpixels. And if you support us there, you get access to a prequel episode every week and once a month a live streamed episode. You also, at the higher levels, you can get special perks for the radio station where you can either have us, you can write out your own promo, or if you want to give a shout out, or if you want to advertise something, you can put it in rotation on the radio station, or we can read it for you, or you can even read it yourself. And we also like to thank all of our Patreon members at the end of every episode. Frankly Zappa, That Nick Walker, Mike Myers, Ed Wilson of the VG Embassy, Mats Holmqvist, Michael Jennings, Davey Cakes, Justin Schneider from XVGM Radio, Sonic Medley, Taco, Harold Howard, Dave Taylor, Reinhard Selkova, which you mentioned helped suggested this episode, right?
Yes, he did. He was the suggester of the topic.
Well, thank you. Andreas Milberg, Dan Loughton, Sleepy S'more, Steve Miller, The Autistic Gamer 89, Cameron Worma, Christopher Centrum, Bobby Arson from One Up Funk, Wicked Sephiroth, Carlos Kung Fu Carlito from the Heroes 3 podcast, Michael Bridgewater from the Forever Sound Version VGM podcast, and Brian Pitt. So just all of you, thank you so much for supporting our show throughout this whole year.
Has always been appreciated.
Always appreciated. And I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you on our next live stream episode, which will be next week. I'm looking forward to doing crossover episodes with a lot of our Patreon members in the coming year. It's going to be great.
And remember, if there's ever something that you find yourself thinking, man, it'd be awesome if these guys did that, feel free to let us know. Use the email or hit us up on the Discord or whatever. Just be like, hey, here's a suggestion. We might not do it, but we might do it. So you never know.
We probably will do it. We probably
pretty
will.
Much.
Because we have a list of topics and things that we're trying to get to. But if there's a listener, or if you're out there and you're like, you know what, I'd rather them try something different or do this, we probably will just do it and have a good time because it's what we do.
We have good times. This is correct.
It's
even the times that aren't good, especially that time.
Especially those times. Anyway, so thanks for listening to the show. I don't think I got anything else. So thanks for listening. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
Have a great week.
And remember, I guess if you're listening to this at the time the episode releases, New Year's will be very much upon us. And it will be that time where everyone sits down and they tabulate all of their successes and their failures, and they decide to come up with a list of 2021 goals and aspirations. And who knows, maybe I'll even do that this year, but I'm contemplating not. But regardless of whether you do or you don't, the thing that's most important to know and understand is that as a person, we grow constantly. It doesn't stop. And though it's good to make goals, you're not necessarily beholden to having goals at the turn of the new year. It's just a human construct. It's just another day, another year which we use to gauge or balance out events. You could have goals set in January or March or July. It's just a matter of when you come up with something you want to do, make an effort to try to do it. Set a goal for whenever you want to set the goal. And it has a start. You can choose your own start date and end date. The goal is just to have goals when you're ready to fulfill them. Don't let yourself get beaten up for not having a goal met as of January 2nd or whatever, because it doesn't matter. It's just about when it's right for you to have the goal in mind and when you feel comfortable attempting to accomplish it. But at the same time, there's also nothing wrong with making the goal for New Year's if that's what you want to do. Just saying you're not required to. You don't have to do it. Other than that, have good beverages, be festive, be free, be safe, wear a mask and soda. Dr. Pepper cream soda. I'm drinking it. You should too. It's just bang.